There you go. It's Friday. And what would it be like without technical difficulties at the beginning of the show? Not a problem. William's here. Amadeus there. And Amadeus, we got a very entertaining weekend. A lot of very important college football games coming down the pike. And some interesting things going on from an NFL standpoint, too.
Yeah, definitely. This is the time of the year where it's all gonna come. It's all coming down to the last few games. Going to see how this playoff picture shakes out in the end, and
Hmm.
yeah, the NFL. That we're getting pretty much at the halfway point of the season. So, going to find out a lot about these teams in the next few games for sure.
That's absolutely true. Let's start on the college side of it. And of course, we got Saturday. And the Saturday games, let's look at. We got Georgia Tech at Clemson. That's the noon game on ABC. Mark Jones, Louis Riddick, Quint Kesnick on that one. But big noon in Happy Valley. It'll be Michigan and Penn State. In this one, Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt on the call. This is the one where we find out if James Franklin has actually put Penn State in a position where they are not a poser, but an actual contender. Because Michigan comes in. This is if you and I have said Michigan is a good team, but not as good as some of the teams we think are better, the ones out in the pack. This one is a put up or shut up game for me as far as Penn State. They get Michigan, they get them at home. If they're going to be one of the quality programs in the Big Ten, they've got to prove it, and this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I definitely think Michigan is probably the best team in the Big Ten this year, but
Yeah.
we're going to find out a lot from this game. We're going to
Hmm.
find out a lot about Michigan because this is the first, real tough opponent they faced all season.
Right.
But we're going to find a lot about Penn State as well, just because they haven't had a ton of tough competition, and obviously they had that close game with Ohio State. But we're going to find out a lot about them, the way they played this game at home, and I think we're also going to find a bit of. We're going to find out a bit about Ohio State here because
Hmm.
Michigan's been pretty much rolling over everybody,
Hmm.
and if they roll over Penn State here, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to say a lot about Ohio State, the way they played Penn State.
Right.
But if Penn State, comes out and beats Michigan, I think it's also going to say a lot about Ohio State as well.
True. At the end of the day, James Franklin has done a very good job of getting good players at Penn State. And this might be one of his best Penn State teams. And the thing that if the reason I say if they're going to get Michigan, okay? 102,000 people in what would be a whiteout because that place is going to be packed to the gills against Michigan. If you can't get geeked out if you're Penn State, this is to me the biggest game Penn State has played probably in years, and I say that because it's a home game. It's an opportunity to prove the program. And if you're going to prove to be one of the top, teams in the country and one of the top teams in the Big Ten, this is your opportunity to do it. Whether
Yeah,
they step
totally.
up and take that opportunity, we'll find that out. But to me, this is put up or shut up time for Penn State.
Yeah, this is their chance. They're at home, and as you said, this is probably one of the best teams Penn State has had in years.
Hmm.
So this is your best shot, especially with all the outside noise going on around Michigan right now. But yeah, this is definitely James Franklin's best shot.
Hmm. Bing, 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 bing. This one could be a upset alert. It's Alabama on the road against a very good Kentucky team. And you know what? Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops can scare up a pretty decent defense, and that Kentucky team can score points too. So, Alabama, it's trying to hang out there with that situation of still trying to figure a way to get into the Final Four. They can't get there if they don't beat Kentucky.
Yeah, definitely a big game for them. I don't think Alabama is a playoff team this year, but
Hmm.
I do think they're a lot better than Kentucky, especially the way Kentucky has played these last few games. They started the season off very hot, but then, they had that
Hmm.
destruction by Georgia. They got beat by Tennessee at home. So they've definitely had a few clunkers since hitting the SEC schedule. So this is one of those games. So yeah, as you said, Alabama's got to take care of business in this one if they want to prove that they're a playoff team.
Well, the 3 o'clock, the 3:30 games. There's some pretty good 3:30 games. Miami and Florida State. That is a rivalry game. I can tell you this, having grown up and lived in the state of Florida, this rivalry game, Miami Florida State, is bigger than Florida State Florida. Okay, because they're in the same conference. They have when they were good, and we're going back to the you know days of Jimmy Johnson, Howard Schnellenberger, Dennis Erickson, that those Miami teams against Bobby Bowden. That was, these two teams on a regular basis for almost a decade played for a spot in the national championship game. So, is it that point? No, at this point. At this point, it is Miami's opportunity to ruin Florida State's chance to become a playoff team. And, that's not for nothing, but they have to do it at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee, Florida, and that's no easy trick. And that'll be Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy on the call.
Yeah, that's exactly what this game is. Florida State, the way Miami has played in their last few games, Florida State has to take care of business here if they want to keep their top four spot there for the college football
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. But yeah, as you said, this is a great opportunity for Miami to ruin Florida State's season. They haven't been playing great in their last few games, but this is a chance to really make a statement. And I think it's also a big game for Mario Cristobal with some of the decisions he's made in some of these games this year. I think at some point he's got to win back the team as well.
Right.
What better way to win back the players on your team than
Mm-hmm.
to beat one of the top four teams in the country?
Right. And your rival.
Yeah.
So, get a twofer on that one. The other thing here is both Miami and Florida State have two top, both of them at this point, 24/7 ranks their recruiting classes as top 10 recruiting classes, okay? One of those teams is not going to get a top 10 recruiting class if they lose. Now, it's quite possible Florida State could lose this game and still end up with a top 10, recruiting class. But if Miami and Mario Cristobal, who is a hell of a recruiter on his own, if he can get this win, that would go a long way to helping him, at least pry away some guys who may be thinking, do we go to FSU or do we go to Miami?
Yeah, definitely. And this game for Miami is big for them in that sense because they're going to ruin Florida State's season with a loss
Yeah.
for the playoffs, but they're not really going to stop them from getting to the ACC championship at
Right.
this point. So yeah, I think this is definitely a big game in all those respects that you mentioned for Miami.
Okay, we got the SEC game on CBS, which Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson have, is Tennessee at Missouri. That one is being played, in Columbia, Missouri, and I don't know. I mean, this is if Missouri's as good as Missouri seems to think they are, then Tennessee might be in for a long afternoon there.
Yeah, this is going to be another good game to watch for sure, just because Tennessee has been a little shaky on the road this
Right.
year, and obviously Missouri is at home, but they're coming off that loss to Georgia in a game they only lost by 9 points. So if you want to call this a letdown spot for them, I guess you could. Tennessee, on the other hand, they've been playing a lot better in their recent games as well. So yeah, this is definitely going to be an entertaining one, I think.
Right. Okay, now here's a game that at the beginning of the season you would say, okay, well, it's going to be, all kinds of possibilities here. Utah is on the road against Washington, and you and I are big fans of the Huskies. The Utes, God love them, they got a decent defense, but they got nothing in the way of an offense. And Washington can put up points. So this game's the 3:30 game on Fox. Jason Benedetti, Brock Heward. By the way, Fox has got a dream weekend with Penn State and Michigan at noon, and the 3:30 game following it is being played in Seattle, where Washington hosts Utah. That's gonna be a heck of a game.
Yeah, Utah's coming off that game last week where they scored 55 points at home against Arizona State, but
Yeah.
now they're going on the road where we've seen their offensive problems this year.
Right.
Washington, they haven't been great on defense lately, but
Right.
I still think their defense is good enough to cause problems for Utah here. And obviously, Utah doesn't have the offense to keep up with the way Washington can score points, especially the way they score points at home. They almost average over 40 points a game at home. So yeah, definitely, it'll be tough for Utah to keep up.
This is one of those games, and I don't know because you're the expert on it, but you know I don't know what the over under on it would be, but you know to me it's one of those games where I couldn't pick the over under on this one. I could pick the team I think is going to win, which is Washington. I might even be able to pick the spread, but the over under on this, because of the erratic, offensive of Utah. But could they put some points on Washington? Yeah, they probably could. But this could end up being, a 45-42 game, or it could end up being, 45 to nothing. I don't know. It's a weird one of those games. So from your standpoint as a handicapper, is this one of those games you would stay off of from that standpoint?
Yeah, definitely. So the total's at 49.5 for this game.
Okay.
As you said, you made some great points there with why you should stay away from the total here, just because, yeah, it could be a game where Utah's struggling offense comes out. They don't put up many points, but Washington's offense struggles on the good defense of Utah. You can end up with a low-scoring game. Or maybe Utah has no problem scoring against Washington's defense. And, obviously Washington, they got one of the best offenses in the country. They find ways to move the ball and score points the same way Oregon did to Utah's defense. Then, yeah, you could end up with a game that goes well over. So definitely a stay away from me on the total.
Okay. Well, here's the 7 and 7:30 games. Let's go to Fox. Fox rolls out their triple header final. This one's going to be played in Norman, Oklahoma, and West Virginia is on the road at Norman, Oklahoma. I don't think that the Sooners are going to have much of a problem with the Mountaineers.
Yeah, the Sooners are an 11.5-point favorite coming into this one. Obviously, they've lost 2 in a row now. West Virginia having a very surprise of a season for sure, but kind of almost putting themselves in Big 12 championship contention there. But this is going to be a big game for both, obviously, because both have 2 losses already. So and with Texas and Oklahoma State only having 1 loss in the conference, pretty much the loser of this game is going to be out of contention.
Oklahoma State, by the way, plays an earlier game against UCF, and UCF's on the road at Oklahoma State. When I said Oklahoma, let me qualify to your point. It's a very good one. God love the West Virginia Mountaineers fans. I mean, I love them to death, and they are just wonderful fans. And they have every reason to be proud of this West Virginia team, which everybody in the media thought was going to finish last in the conference, and that was with bringing on UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. So, West Virginia has done really well. And, just because I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma doesn't mean that they haven't had a good season, or, certainly shouldn't be interested in what's going to happen next year when, oh, by the way, Oklahoma isn't in the conference any longer.
Yeah, they definitely they definitely came out with a screw you mentality this year.
Right.
Like, you guys think we're going to be last? We'll show you.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Good on them for sure.
Right.
I think at this point, because West Virginia, they already qualified for a bowl, right? I believe they have
Hmm.
6 wins
They
already.
got
So
6 wins. Yep.
so they did what nobody thought they were going to do. I mean, if they make the Big 12 championship at this point, I think it's just
Wow.
cherry on top. But they've definitely done a good job this season.
Yeah. Good on you, Mountaineers. All right. Now here's one on ESPN, 7 o'clock. Chris Fowler, Herb Street, and ABC. This one has a very, very interesting ring to it. It's Ole Miss at Georgia. Okay, Lane Kiffin can scheme up some stuff, which I look Georgia's number one or number two, depending on who if you're the CFP, they're number two. If you're the AP, they're number one. This Ole Miss team is not bad, and like I said, now if I'll tell you what, if this game was being played in Jackson, I would feel a whole lot better about an Ole Miss upset than I would them going to play between the hedges there in Athens against Georgia. But that's going to be an interesting game, I would think. I hope.
Yeah, it should be another exciting game here. Obviously, big SEC championship
Mm-hmm.
uh, implications here. Georgia
Mm-hmm.
probably already has their ticket booked with the win over
Right.
Missouri, but Ole Miss, I mean, they can keep their chances alive here. You
Mm-hmm.
beat Georgia, you still have the one loss, and you just got to hope Alabama drops another game before the end of the season. So Ole Miss, definitely, their chances are still alive for the SEC
Mm-hmm.
championship. They have to win this game,
Right.
but I mean, it's not going to be hard to motivate your team when you're
Mm-hmm.
playing, as you said, number one some places,
Mm-hmm.
number two other places. But
Mm-hmm.
either way, you're playing a top two team in the country that's dominated the conference the
Right.
last 2 years, won the national championship 2 straight years. Ole Miss is going to get up for this game, so
Right.
it's definitely going to be an exciting one. Probably the game they'll bring their best effort in.
Yeah, for sure. 7:30 ABC. I said ESPN has Georgia and Ole Miss on ABC. It's on ESPN. However, it's regionalized, so um, there's two games. Either way, you can watch them both. One on it's either going to be on ESPN or ABC, depending upon where you live in the country. Okay, so keep an eye out for that. But here's the ABC game at 7:30. Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvorak, and Tom Luckenbill are there, and it's Texas at TCU. It's the final game that these two teams are likely to play for a very, very, very long time against each other. I don't think that. I just don't see how Texas goes in there. I know they're banged up, but it's going to take. This is not the TCU of last year. And going into the Dallas Fort Worth area where TCU is, where Texas recruits like hell. This is one of those games where I don't think Texas is going to stump their toe.
Yeah, this is definitely not the same TCU team as last year,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think this Texas team is as great as everybody makes them out to be, especially with Malik Murphy as the starting quarterback. They really
True.
struggled at home against Kansas State last week,
Mm-hmm.
and really, Kansas State, if they complete that pass in overtime, or sorry,
Mm-hmm.
if they complete that play in overtime, then we could be talking about this game very different. Texas could have
True.
two losses
Mm-hmm.
with the loss at home. So I really don't like their chances here going into TCU. I think TCU is going to have something planned for them. Obviously, they beat them
Mm-hmm.
last year, so I think Texas could be on upset alert here.
Okay, there you go. Now the game on NBC, which is the Big Ten game, the primetime Big Ten game, Michigan State, Ohio State. Look, I just no, Michigan State going into the horseshoe. If it was basketball, I might take Michigan State. I just don't. This has been a lost season for the Spartans, and heading down to the horseshoe to play the Buckeyes. 7:30. Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge on the call. I'm sorry, I just don't see how Ohio State wins.
Well, if it was basketball, not just Mike taking
Yeah.
Michigan State, I'd be taking Michigan State by the 31.5 that Ohio State's favored in this game.
There you go. There
But
you go.
obviously, this is football. I still kind of like Michigan State to cover the spread here at 31.5. I wouldn't bet it just because Michigan State is having quite a year. Obviously, good buddy by Dan Kaiser, big Sparty guy. So
Mm-hmm.
he's has no faith in their team in his team this week. He thinks they're going to get rolled by Ohio State, but I don't know. I just don't have faith in the Ohio State offense. From what we've seen from them this
Right.
year, this could be a game where they got to win by 32, and they could score, maybe 35 points. And if
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State scores anything, they're covering that
Right.
spread. So I definitely think it's one you're not going to see a ton of points from Michigan State, but I don't think it's a game you're going to see Ohio State just put up 60 points on the year the way their offense is played.
It looks to me like that would be an ugly game. This is every opportunity to be an ugly game. One of those games where kind of like the ones you watched last week in Pittsburgh, where Michigan State sticks around for a little while and Ohio State just kind of putters up and down the field. So we'll see.
That's what they've been doing, right? They were losing to Rutgers at halftime
Right.
week. So
Yeah.
so this seems to be the MO of this team. Start slow during the season, start slow in their games, and then find a way to squeak it out in the fourth quarter and cover the spread somehow with 3 random touchdowns.
Right. Who knows? It'll be interesting. Here's a game that it doesn't have major implications from the standpoint of national championship or anything like that, but it does to me have an interesting twist to it, and that's Arizona State at UCLA. It's a 9 o'clock game on the Pac-12 network. JB Long, Lincoln Kennedy on the call. To me that this is going to be an intriguing game. I mean, obviously it's the last time these two, I should say, are going to go and play each other, because next year they'll be in different conferences, and the Pac-12 will be no more. And so, but Arizona State, UCLA had a tough time last week, and Arizona State has been playing decent. It's Arizona State. A lot of people don't know. Well, a lot of people. Arizona State actually has a campus in Los Angeles, so it's really kind of an interesting thing that we're seeing with it, because Arizona State recruits really big in Los Angeles. UCLA, of course, is in Los Angeles, Westwood to be exact, and this game is being played over at the Rose Bowl. So we'll see. Again, is it an earth-shattering game? No. It's just, maybe it's just me, but I'm intrigued by this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a weird game for me, just because UCLA is favored by 16.5. That loss to Arizona last week kind of put the nail in their coffin for the season. Right. But Arizona State, they were playing very feisty for the last few weeks, up until last week, where they got their doors blown off in Utah, 55-3 or whatever the score was there. And now they're on the road again. Maybe they have a better home advantage because no one really goes to watch these UCLA games. But,
well, I said with the amount of people that they recruit out of Los Angeles area, okay, there's going to be a bunch of people from Arizona State. The alumni and the fan base there could be as many Arizona State fans at the Rose Bowl as there could be UCLA fans.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this game. I think it's kind of a meaningless game, though.
Oh, it is. Yeah, but like I said, it just intrigued me. All right.
Got recruiting implications.
Yeah, recruiting, absolutely. Fox, God must be smiling on them, because they've got the Pac-12 After Dark game. That's 4 games in a row. You just get down there at noon and just hunker down, because it's going to be a wonderful week. A wonderful Saturday of games. USC goes on the road to Eugene to play Oregon. That's a 10:30 game. Timmy Brando, my boy, and Spencer Tillman on the call for Fox.
What do you think the spread is in this game?
I'm going to say 14 points.
Pretty good, pretty good. It's actually 15. It was
Is
was
it?
15 and a
Okay.
half. It's come down a bit. It's interesting though because the look ahead line on this was -2 for Oregon.
Right.
And now it's 15, 15 and a half ish. So very, very interesting. I think Oregon's going to win this game for sure. USC's season is pretty much over. They had their eyes on the playoffs. They have 3 losses now, so that's
Right.
out the door. Now they have 2 losses in the Pac-12 as well. So even that is out the door, especially when Oregon
Yeah.
they're just playing like they have their eyes set on the championship game. They know, we run the table. It's going to be us in Washington, and we still have a shot at the college football playoffs there. Just
Right.
because, if they beat Washington and come away with the Pac-12 championship, they've made a pretty strong case the way they've played these last few games of being a playoff team for sure. But yeah, this is a very interesting one because obviously you have a bad defense versus a very good defense and
Right.
very good offenses. So you'd probably figure out who's going to win that game. But cover the number, it's tough to say. Is if Oregon manages to suffocate this USC offense like we've
Mm-hmm.
seen them do the last few weeks,
Right.
then I might be ready to call Oregon the better team than Washington.
Well, I mean, you got Bo Nix and you got Caleb Williams in this game. Uh, that's quality at quarterback play, but playing in Eugene, man, it's tough to play at the University of Oregon and beat them, and especially since SC they've shown no ability to stop anybody. So it's going to be a long day's journey into night for SC on this one. What's the over under on this game? Must be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's 76, and so like it makes sense.
76. Holy mackerel!
This is the same total as last week's Washington USC game. That
Okay.
one made sense because both teams
Yeah.
have good offenses, and like Washington's defense isn't
It's
that
it's iffy, right? Yeah.
This total doesn't make sense to me just because Oregon has a very good defense.
Yeah. Oregon plays defense. Yeah.
There's a chance USC doesn't even score 20 points in this game. On
Possibly. Yeah.
So, yeah, 76. I don't know. I don't know about this one. Not the over cashed last week on the
Right.
76, but I don't know about this one.
Oof, man, that's a total you don't see often.
Yeah, and we have another one, the Rutgers Iowa game. Just like last week, the Northwestern Iowa was 29. The Rutgers Iowa is 28 and a half total.
Holy mackerel. Okay. Let's move over to the NFL. By the way, couple of reports of interest that you and I have talked about the future of Bill Belichick. And the Athletic reports that this will be the last season as the head football coach of the New England Patriots for one Mr. Bill Belichick. But that being said, that he will coach somewhere in the NFL this next season, and the leading contenders, according to the Athletic, are wait for it, Chicago Bears. I don't see him going there, but stranger things have happened. Our Jim Harbaugh team, which of course is Las Vegas, and there's a couple of other, possibilities, but one being the Buccaneers. I don't think that's going to happen, but that'd be would have been interesting to have. You had Brady with the Buccaneers, and then you have Belichick with the Buccaneers. So who knows? But the Athletic says there will be a mutual parting of the ways at the end of the season. That it's almost a foregone conclusion that Belichick and and the Kraft family are about ready to get a divorce.
Well, it's about time. We've seen it coming all season, but that's very interesting how they kind of like already worked it out. Like, I'm not gonna coach next year. I'm leaving the team, and what Kraft's like, good. We don't want you.
Well, I'm not so sure that it's not Kraft that's helping them out the door. So,
Well,
but
I mean, Kraft
yeah.
is kind of like ruining this team by getting his hands all in the
Hmm.
football decision making process. Mac Jones is not an NFL starting
Right.
quarterback, and whoever they hire as their next head coach is gonna realize that they're gonna either draft a new quarterback because
Right.
at this point they're gonna have a pretty high pick
Hmm.
in the draft the way they're playing this season if
And
they keep this up.
this might be one of the biggest and best quarterback drafts in many many years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. So it's going to be very interesting. I think trading up is going to be a dumb idea this year, just because I don't know. To me, Caleb Williams shouldn't be going number one. I
Hmm.
don't think he is the best quarterback in the
No.
draft, but like that's my point is even if he goes or somebody you want goes, there's so many good quarterbacks. I think it would be a waste to give away something to trade
Hmm.
up a few picks when you
Yeah.
could probably get a guy lower in the draft and a good quality quarterback as well.
Yeah. There's going to be 5 or 6 quarterbacks that or more that could help a team. All right. Sunday 9:30 in the morning. We talked about New England. Well, they're facing Indianapolis in a game in Frankfurt, Germany. It's game number 2 in Frankfurt. Richie Eisen, Jason McCourty on the call on the NFL Network. Okay, so that's your 9:30 game on the NFL Network. All right. So what do we got on the early games for CBS? The early games: Green Bay at Pittsburgh, Ian Eagle and Charles Davis. Houston at Cincinnati, Kevin Harlan and Trent Green on the call. Tennessee at Tampa Bay, Andrew Carlone, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan on that call. You got the A team, Nance and Romo. This is the late game. Detroit at the LA Chargers, and Atlanta is at Arizona, where Spiro Ditas and Adam Archuleta will be to call that game. Any of those first 5 games of interest to you, my friend?
Well, the thing that interests me is we got Matt Ryan on the roster here, and he's not commentating the Atlanta Falcons game. What the hell is this?
I don't know what to tell you.
Scheduling NFL, come on. Or actually, that's a CBS thing.
That's a CBS thing,
This
not
is on CBS. Come on,
right.
scheduling.
Put him over there. Spiro and Adam have that game.
That's like when you have the Cowboys and you're not gonna put Tony Romo as the guy for that game. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But that's the
There you,
first thing that stands out to me there, Jim.
okay, now over on Fox, the early games. They've got some interesting early games. San Francisco at Jacksonville. Joe Davis and Moose Johnson on the call on that one. That's gonna be. I kind of think, and I want obviously your opinion on this. I think San Francisco at this point in time is going to say, you know what? We just went out and we got Chase Young to bookend, our deal here with Bosa on the other side. I think San Francisco is going to say, you know what? Let's go defense and let's try to grind this thing out and beat Jacksonville at home that way, using the defense as their number one calling card for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would be a good idea. Obviously, they have one of the better defenses in the NFL. They're getting a lot healthier for this game coming out of their bye week,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, their defense has been their staple for a while now with
Right.
Kyle Shanahan. So I definitely think that would be a good idea. The Jaguars' offense is interesting. The 49ers' offense, even when they were rolling, they
Mm-hmm.
don't score as much on the road.
Right.
So definitely not a terrible game plan to lean on their defense here,
Mm-hmm.
especially when we've seen the Jaguars light up some good defenses lately.
Right.
Obviously, they had the game against the Saints and they had a
Mm-hmm.
game against the Steelers. Now they struggled a lot more against the
Mm-hmm.
Steelers, only scoring 20 points in that game. And it was funny because they moved the ball at will, yet
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't put up points. It felt like every time I looked at the TV, Jacksonville was in the red zone.
Right.
And then when I would come check back, the Steelers had the ball with no extra points added on the board.
Right.
I was wondering what the hell is going on here, right? I'm gonna have to rewatch that now. But yeah, it's definitely they've struggled. Even the Saints, like I know they lit
Mm-hmm.
up the Saints defense, but a lot of that I think was the Saints were expecting him to be a little bit hobbled. It was the
Mm-hmm.
first game with that knee injury and the
Right.
brace on Trevor Lawrence, and he just surprised everybody by running for 70 yards.
Right.
A lot of it came on that one big scramble he
Mm-hmm.
had,
Right.
but I think that definitely throws the defense off when you're not game planning for someone to be a mobile quarterback
Right.
with that kind of injury. So definitely now with Chase Young, they can definitely contain Trevor Lawrence. So
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be a good game to watch. I think might be the best 1 o'clock game on the slate.
I've got a better one, but I'll tell you in a minute. New Orleans at Minnesota at Adam Amin and Mark Sareth on that call. New Orleans is starting to play better. Minnesota got that win last week with their former Cardinal quarterback who showed up, basically got out of a cab, threw on a jersey, and won a football game.
They traded the wrong guy. I kept saying they traded the wrong quarterback.
Well, that's true. All right, here's my entertaining game of the, and this one there may not be a score in this game because of the defenses. Baltimore and Cleveland. The game's being played at M&T Bank Stadium here in the Baltimore area. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma on that call. I think I agree with you on San Francisco Jacksonville. That could be very interesting. To me, these two, Cleveland and Baltimore, have two elite defenses, and I don't know. It'll be fascinating to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the elite defenses here, but I still think, for myself, I think that the 49ers and the Jaguars is the better game just because I don't know what the Browns are going to do here. The Ravens defense has looked very good, especially
Mm-hmm.
at home in their last
Right.
few games, but specifically the Browns offense hasn't looked great.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, some have made the point that it's looked better with PJ Walker running the show, and obviously we're going to be getting Deshaun Watson in this game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and now it's on the road. The Ravens won the last one in Cleveland a few weeks ago,
Right.
28-3. I kind of like the under. I do like the under 38
Mm-hmm.
in this game, but yeah, this is one where I agree with you. I don't know if Cleveland's going to score. I think Baltimore will score, but
Right.
that's why I like the under. The two elite defenses, as you mentioned. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sold on this Cleveland team yet. That's my one issue. I do think they have a top 5 defense, but the team as a whole, I don't know how good they are.
Okay, here's two games that have to contractually be obligated to be played. They're the late games. The New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson, God love them, get the call on that one. I don't know why the A team for Fox is at a Giants Dallas game. I guess because of the market sizes.
It's the Cowboys, Jim. The
Yeah.
Cowboys lay the
Yeah.
17 with the
1994 was the last time they won a world championship, folks. It's been a while. So the Giants, and the Dallas Cowboys. Washington travels all the way out west to Seattle. Kevin Kugler and Mark Sanchez on the call of that one, and I can't tell you how little I care about that game. It's almost physically impossible. Except, I don't know what they're thinking in the not flex situation, but the Jets and Vegas are the Sunday night game, and we joked about this that maybe they were, giving up for the Country Music Awards, but the Jets and Vegas is the best game you can give us on a Sunday night. You couldn't have flexed that San Francisco Jacksonville game, or you couldn't have flexed the Baltimore Cleveland game. This doesn't make any sense to me.
I'd even take the Lions and the Chargers in that.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, I don't know, Jim. I don't know. Solid. What do you mean? It's a great game. We get to see Zach Wilson in prime time on the road. That beautiful Jets defense. Get to see that bottom 10 Raiders defense and their new linebacker promoted to head coach along with Aiden O'Connell. What don't you love about this game? What do you mean?
I Here's the thing that is so interesting to me, and that is the league was talking about. Well, the whole concept of having Sunday night is we're going to be able to flex, and we'll flex those games. We'll get the good games into the 8 o'clock window. And what they found out was that the owners hate that concept because what it does is if you've got a ticket to the game and you got a 1 o'clock game kick, and suddenly you're an 8 o'clock kick, they found out. Guess what? People just don't show. Obviously, it's not like no one shows. Of course they show. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people sell their tickets because they're like basically saying, some of these teams are regional teams. Like let's use Kansas City for example. A lot of Kansas City's fans come all the way from Nebraska to those games. Okay, so when it's a regional thing, it's one thing to go at 1 o'clock on a Sunday. It's another thing to go, when you're not going to get home until 1 a.m. and, maybe the kids have to go to school the next day and you're in a totally different situation. So, again, do they sell out the stadiums? They do. But what most of it happens is the people who had those tickets sell them because it's a problem. So owners have found out that that flexing, when you have to change that from a 1 o'clock to an 8 o'clock game, can be a problem. So NBC keeps getting stuck with games that friends and family want to see.
Yeah, this was what was the this was supposed to be, I guess, Aaron Rodgers versus Jimmy Garoppolo. That was gonna be a big AFC matchup. They thought, both were gonna be competing for their division. Really,
not me. So what's a mother to do?
The thing is, even if both the teams were good, right? Like,
yeah,
the Raiders, you still have the Chargers and the Chiefs in front of you in that division, and with the Jets, you have the Dolphins and the Bills. So, like, even with Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how good this Jets team would be. Their defense has kept them in a lot of games. Maybe they would win more games if the offense wasn't so bad. But at the same time, I think they find ways to win. You think the Chargers next season are going to have Belichick as their head coach, and no flex games until week 13. So that's a good point, Rye. I remember that they changed that, so they can't start flexing games until the 13th week now. So we're stuck with what we got. 4 games left of the season.
Yeah, flex the final 4. So there you go.
Right.
Hey, Rye, since you're still with us, I hope, any game that you're looking forward to this weekend? That isn't I don't think the Eagles play this week, right? They're off.
Yeah, they're on bye week. I know we did a show together last night. I know he does like the Ravens -6.5, and he's on my lovely Cardinals. I don't know why. I already did condolences on that bet, but that'll be a nice donation to the book.
Well, Rye, do you think Mr. Murray is coming back, right?
Yeah, he thinks his whole reasoning was Kyler Murray is going to be the best player on the field pretty much between these two. He's going to be better than Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ridder or whatever the Falcons throw out. I don't know. He's
going to watch Baltimore.
I'm such a Cardinals hater that I'm not going to agree with him on the Cardinals.
Well, the Baltimore playing at home, it should be. We don't think it's gonna be a very high scoring game, but we think it'll be interesting too. So we'll see. James Conner's coming back too.
Okay, that'll give them a bit of an offense. They will have, but you got to remember about Kyler Murray is like, he doesn't really know any of the pass catchers on the team. Since they drafted Kyler Murray,
right.
they've drafted a new wide receiver every year because that was the position they were lacking in. And none of those wide receivers are on the team. Christian Kirk was one. Like Wandale Moore was another. Like there was another one too.
There's no Larry Fitzgerald left.
Yeah, and now I'm starting to see why he wanted to retire from this because he probably could have played another few seasons, but he saw this idiot kid coming in and was like, I'm not sticking around. And then when he went, Patrick Peterson jumped ship, and those were those are my 2 Cardinal jerseys. So that's how long I've been suffering with the Cardinals regime, going back to the good old Larry and the Larry Patrick Peterson did, which isn't that long ago, but
no, not that long.
Yeah, definitely not that long. But at the same time, I've never seen them really have a successful season. They've had like a few good seasons, and that's about it. There was one chance I think they had the year they hosted the Super Bowl, and they had a chance to be the first ever team to make it to the Super Bowl and host, and they lost to the Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton and the Panthers in the playoffs, and then I think it was 2 years later the Bucs and Tom Brady became the first team to host the Super Bowl.
And then the following Super Bowl the Rams hosted.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So they had back-to-backs.
It's been nothing but pain and torture as a Cardinals fan this last decade.
There you go. So, Rye, enjoy watching the Baltimore the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns in what likely will be a very entertaining game that we said before. So there you go. All right. Speaking of Rye Cape, and of course Amadeus, you and he are in the same group, and let's talk about what you've got for the weekend, and we can find it all right down there in the show box below.
Yeah, definitely. He's on the site with me. You can get both our premium plays at pickadvisor.com and theinsidersroom.com. You can also get my premium plays at bigal.com. Those links are in the description below. I'll probably have my football, both college and NFL, posted by later tonight. It's going to be a very busy night for me. I'll have some soccer up as well. And then we'll take a look at the basketball. That's more of a daily thing for me. But yeah, there'll be tons to bet on. It's going to be a good weekend. There's a lot of good games this weekend.
So Rye, to quote Rye Cape, let's cash those tickets, right?
Yes. His very iconic line. Let's cash.
There you go. Cash them tickets.
Rye Cape.
All right, y'all have a good weekend, and there we go. Let's put it up for them. Cash them tickets. All right, Rye. We will be back on Monday when we'll have to take a look at what happened over the weekend. Will the upsets come? Will Georgia lose to Ole Miss? Will Oregon and USC stay under 200? I mean, so we'll have to see. There's a whole bunch of stuff that will Kyler Murray come in and suddenly revert back to what was it, 2019, when he was a superstar for a while there. Who knows? We definitely will find out on Monday, and when we do, we're going to talk about it. But until then, for Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care, everybody. Have a nice week. End.